welcome to my YouTube channel, or welcome back if you've been here before. My name is Liz and this is Let's Get Lizical, where we do everything card making. We're going to be making a couple of cards today with a heat embossed resist technique. And we'll be doing it with silicone mat from the dollar store. This is just for like heat guns and stuff, like the glue guns. And I will use it to kind of like hold my card panel down. You can use like the grip mats and stuff, but I just use that because it pretty much holds it in place. It might move a little bit, but not too much. This is just for doing the heat embossing because I don't want my panel to warp too much. This is something Ardith does quite a bit, where she heat embosses with tinfoil behind it. It just kind of like bounces the heat back underneath and to distribute the weight better. So we'll try that today. Probably gonna use these three like snowflakey ornaments. I might add a couple. Maybe we'll do a double layer one. I don't think I've ever done that before. But I have two different colors that I'm gonna do. I have one here where we're gonna start off. I'm gonna ink blend, or not ink blend. I'm going to emboss it with white. And then we will ink blend in like similar blues, and then maybe have it fade into like the background cardstock. So I will probably use maybe Morning and Twilight from Simon's Positively Saturated line. And then I think for the other one with the white panel, I'm gonna again heat emboss in white, but I think I'm gonna do a pink and purple kind of mottled background. We'll see. I've not done that before. And then again, I might do like a second layer with maybe where you stamp and then put clear embossing and then maybe darken it up a little bit. We'll see. Not sure if I'll do that or not. I might just keep it simple, do the one layer, but we'll figure that out as we go. Maybe I'll do one way and one the other way. I am doing kind of like two different cards today anyway. So I will move over to my voiceover and you can watch me make this card. Hey guys, voiceover Liz here. So I absolutely love how these two cards turned out. They each have their own little like unique look to them. This one's nice because it's just all shades of blue. I really do like the next one that I do though, and although I'm not a pink or a purple person, it just works for some reason for the snowflakes. I did like the pink, purple, and like the iris color from Simon's Positively Saturated line is a little bit more on the blue side. Like it's a purpley blue, but it's still more of the blue tone. So like just having like that mixture of colors was really nice on the other card. It's not traditional at all, but it looks really nice, and just gives that like fantasy look to the background. For this one here, you'll see that we make a little bit of an oopsie. I'm going to leave it in the video just to show you guys how to like kind of work through that. So I'm going to put my embossing powder on here, and I had trouble with the smaller snowflake because there was some like dust in areas where I didn't want it to. There was a little bit of like hair stuck in these two. I've had this bottle for so long, it just probably picks up little bits of cat hair here and there. But you'll see I keep trying to put it on and then take it off in some areas. And then I think when I took it off here is where I kind of smudged the embossing ink that's underneath it, and it just made it worse. And then I tried to dust it off and do it again, and then made it even worse. So I'm just going to dust off this entire ornament and heat emboss the other two, and then we'll come back and redo that one. So that's like one of the benefits of having the Misty, is that you can kind of like come back to it and fix those mistakes, which you'll see here in a second. I'm just gonna heat emboss these two, and then I will go back to my Misty, reuse my anti-static powder, and then re-stamp it so that it's crisp. It should be dry by now as well because I did use the heat gun on the cardstock, so it should have dried it up a bit at this point. I didn't actually test it. I was going to, and then I didn't. But I kind of went with it. If you want to test it, you can throw some embossing powder on the panel ahead of time to see if anything sticks. If anything sticks, it's not dry enough yet, so either hit it with your heat tool quickly to try to dry it up, or add extra anti-static powder to it so that it won't stick in the areas you don't want it to. So that's just like a quick tip in case you ever make that kind of mistake. You don't have to start over just because one area doesn't work. Just dust off the embossing powder before you heat emboss it, and you can save it. If you've heat embossed it and there's a mistake, you might want to restart. But anyway, here's my second panel. I'm just doing all of my heat embossing at once for the most part. I'm going to add a bit to the second one after, which you'll see in a bit. But I wanted to make sure that I embossed these specific ones on each panel because I am doing the same layout for both. I'm just doing them in different colorways, and they do look completely different. And as you'll know, if you've been here for any length of time, that is how I like to do my cards because I don't like to mass produce cards. There are times when mass producing cards is easier and better, but for me, most of the time, I just enjoy doing individual cards. And again, if I need to do the same layout for multiple cards, I will just change up the colorways for each single one of them so that no two are alike. Or if I'm doing the same layout for multiple cards, I'll make sure I change up the pattern paper or the images that I'm using on them, or both, just to make it individual for the person that's getting it. And, you know, knowing that everybody's getting a one-of-a-kind card is, like, important to me. So that's how I do it. But anyway, I decided to go with I think it was, Twilight and Galaxy colors instead of the Morning and Twilight. The other one was just a bit too close to the card base color, so I decided to go on the darker end of it. And these do dry back as well, like they don't stay this dark, but it was a better choice to go with the mid-tone and the darker shade of that trio. And I didn't ink blend it all the way down. I didn't even ink blend it like evenly. I ended up just kind of ink blending the mid-tone around, like down and then around each of the ornaments, and then left it at that because I thought it looked good. And then I ink blended the darker color at the top. And then I left the bottom as the plain cardstock, which is a benefit if you're using colored cardstock to do this technique, because then it'll save you on some ink and you'll only have to have like at least one darker shade if you want to do one, and then you could always add like a black vignette to it instead of doing a darker shade of the same color if you don't have a ton of colors. That's just like another option. You could like ink blend a little bit of black at the top. I wouldn't go too dark with it or like too heavy, but you could do a bit at the top. And then for this one, I decided to do like bright, bold pinks, purples, and blues. And I really like the different look that this gives. I like the mottled look. It's almost like a bokeh kind of background, especially with spraying the water on these. I did do both panels, and then I'm kind of like setting them to dry while I clean up my work surface a bit. I love the Simon's Positively Saturated line because they are water reactive inks, so they do kind of that distressed look to it. And then just to speed up the drying of this panel, I decided to use the lighter setting on my heat gun and just like quickly go over it. I did it like, this is sped up, but like I actually went over it very quickly because I didn't want to remelt that embossing powder because I didn't want it to like grab any of the color from the ink around it or soak into my paper. So I just like quickly went over it as much as possible. And then this is the card that I decided to add the few extra snowflakes on. It's going to be very subtle because I am going to emboss them in a clear embossing powder. So they're just going to kind of pick up a little bit of the color underneath. Then I'm going to go over this panel again with the ink in the same areas and just kind of brighten it up. Right now it looks a little, like it is bright, but it still looks a little bit duller than it does at the end because I am going to do a second layer of the color. I just wanted to make sure that we got that texture underneath this top layer because dye inks are translucent. I always get confused by translucent and transparent. I have to remember transparent is 100% see-through. Translucent means it's a little bit see-through. So when you layer it up, each layer gets a little bit darker, which is another great property of dye inks. because you're able to kind of build up color. So if you have one color of something, you can build up to a darker color just by using that same color over and over again. You want to probably make sure that you dry your ink in between layers. Like if you're trying to build up to a darker color and ombre look, you want to start off with your lightest layer and then work up to your darkest layer. So if you were doing like a full panel, you would ink blend the full panel at the lightest shade you wanted, and then maybe do 2/3 of it again in another layer, let it dry, or hit it with your heat gun to help speed that up. And then do like the top third again, just to get that darker shade. It is not as much contrast as it would be if you were doing 3 different colors or 3 shades of a color, but it still does work that way. So you can see here, like I'm adding that second layer of the pink and how much more bold that is. I don't remember if I hit this again with water. I don't think I do. And I really hate that splotch up at the top there. I did get a big glob of water on here. I tried to somewhat cover it up with the snowflake that I added in the top left corner there, but because I did it with clear ink, it's still there. If I had done white snowflakes, it probably would have turned out a little bit better, but it's fine. I didn't hate it enough to redo the entire card, so I am going to leave it, and we are our own worst critics, especially me. I'm very hard on myself for a lot of things, and you know what? It's not a problem. Again, if you don't bring attention to it, it's not a problem. Nobody will notice. Anyway, now I'm going to trim down the panels because I want to add the sentiment. Again, I'm going to add the same sentiment to both of these, and I believe I do it in the same color even. I think I picked the Galaxy, which is the darkest shade of color I used on the blue panel, but it also goes with the iris color that I used on the other panel because it is in the blue family. So I am going to add the Season's Greeting sentiment from, I think this is the Winter Wishes or something like that. It'll be down in the description below. It's a CZ set from Simon, and I used it a few weeks ago or a few months ago maybe. It was for my poinsettia prompt that I did for the holiday card hijinks hashtag that I have. It was not really a prompt, but that was the theme for the month anyway. I don't have prompts this year. I did prompts last 2 years, and I decided this year that I was going to kind of do whatever, and that's just how I did it. So we're flying by the seat of our pants this time, and I would prefer to have the prompts. So I'm kind of just making up my own. I mean, I made them up to begin with anyway, but now I'm rambling. Anyway, so I'm just gonna glue these to the cards as is, and I'm just trimming the cards because sometimes they don't fold 100% correctly, or the patterns, like the paper's a little bit off. So I just make sure that I trim my cards before I'm fully finished. And it's easier for, you know, placing panels. And then for this one, because I did a lot more ink blending on this and more spraying of the water, I decided to use double-sided tape on this so that it helps keep that panel a little bit flatter. It did warp a little bit more than the other one because of all of the wet mediums that I used on this. But those are pretty much our cards for today, guys. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, comment down below, and let me know your thoughts. If you're not already subscribed to my channel, please subscribe because I'd love to have you here, and make sure you follow me over on Instagram and or Facebook to get additional content. So until next time, thanks guys, bye!